Hey everybody,
Want to
my name is
hear?
Byron and I'm with Ackland Avenue and I'm joined here by some of our wonderful senior developers. I've got Saul, Richard, Renee, Gazi, and Dante on the hangout with me here. And today we're going to be talking about how to develop like a senior. This is a really important subject because for some, your goal is to become a senior developer. And maybe even in times past, if you were working somewhere before you started working for Ackland Avenue, then you may have been called a senior developer before, and then you get to Ackland Avenue, and all of a sudden, wait, you're not a senior developer anymore. So what's up with that? Well, it's because for one thing, the title or the rank of senior developer is relatively new at Ackland Avenue, and we developed this rank or title just recently because we wanted to highlight or give a certain amount of responsibility to some of the developers on our team who have really gotten some of the strategies, the techniques, the practices that make Ackland Avenue what it is. So so things like leadership, agile development techniques, living and breathing agile development. Those are some things that make a senior developer at Ackland Avenue. So without getting too far ahead, I wanted to ask a few questions to our panel here, and just wanted to start off with a few questions. Like I'm basically looking at our criteria right here on my right, as far as what is what are the criteria for being a senior developer. And it says that a senior developer is a disciplined and experienced software developer. Now, that actually describes quite a few people on our team. And it might describe a lot of people in the community also. So just right off the bat, Ackland Avenue would probably happily endorse you. If that's the only thing, Ackland Avenue would happily endorse you as a senior developer. And then it goes down. There's a lot of bullet points below that actually might cause you to realize, okay, I need to be working on this or I need to be working on that. So the first one is that a senior developer is a disciplined, experienced software developer who is a proven leader. Um, what do you all think, Dante? What do you think would be? How do we know somebody is a proven leader?
Uh, okay, from my perspective, is someone that has the vision and can see in it has a wider vision of a project that could be lead to the success of the project also, and the people will follow that.
So
But
what do you think? How do we prove that somebody is a leader?
I think it's someone is a leader if he can make their teammates to accomplish a goal. Maybe if we take this in a side of development, if someone is a leader, he can make his team uh, to do nice job in all the things we do in here in Ackland. For example, nice code quality and going in success with the client. All of
Right.
those.
Right. I used to work at a camp on a mountain in a really rural area of my state in the United States, and and sometimes I got to take care of the horses, and which was a lot of fun because I love horses. I know I don't look like much of a cowboy, but I really do enjoy horses. They're awesome animals, and it's really obvious that in order to get a horse to go to the pond to drink some water, you would never get behind the horse and try to push it. Why would that? Why would you not want to push a horse? Anybody?
For starters, you might
You'll
get
get
kicked.
kicked.
Yes.
yes,
Okay. So that has nothing to do with what I was going to say, but I wanted to see if you all know a thing or two about horses. Yeah, it'll kick you. It'll kick you right in the nads, and it will not be nice. And so to get a horse to go to water, you would never push it. You would pull it. you pull it along, and it's a whole lot easier to get a horse to move if you can make it follow you. So you gotta be nice to the horse, and you've gotta groom it, and you've got to give it something that it wants, and you've got to know what the horse wants, and you got to know how to talk to the horse, and you just got to know how to make it want to follow you, so that for me, I remember I was told, okay, if you want to get this horse to follow you, then you need to kind of pat it on the side and play with his hair a little bit and talk to it, and then just pull a little bit on the rope and the horse will follow you. Okay, so then we did that. Then you get to the pond. How can you make a horse put its nose down in the water and start drinking? You can't. It has to want to drink. So there's this saying in English that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And I saw that be true in my own time with horses. And now we're not dealing with horses here; we're dealing with human beings. And so how in the world do you lead a developer to greatness and then actually make them do it? Well, that's something that each one of you guys has figured out naturally, and you've proven that you have that leadership ability. And how do we prove that? I don't know. I guess it just means if your developers are following you, then you are a proven leader. That's kind of where I was going with that. The next point here. I enjoy talking to you about horses, by the way. I haven't been able to talk about horses in years. The next thing is super important. It's that a senior developer is a disciplined and experienced developer who cares deeply about quality and long-term maintainability. Richard, explain to me what you think about with the whole idea of cares deeply.
You're not going to be doing things because you're trendy or just because you want to get them out of the way and go to them. And by doing them deeply, or you care about them deeply, like you mean that you care about not just the project that you're building, but whatever the problem your client is trying to solve. So if you're like really caring deeply, you're not going to be throwing just random stuff or doing things just to get them out of the way. And to do that, there's a bunch of things that go into place, like great communication. So senior dev must be a great communication person. Has to be able to get communication, not just like getting things from your head to their head, but getting from their head to your head. So and also explaining those things to your fellow developers, which hopefully they're following you. So that's what I would say. Communication is a big place there.
Yeah, and when we talk about quality and long-term maintainability, a lot of times those two things they're kind of the same thing. Quality leads to long-term maintainability. So if your code quality is high, then your long-term maintainability is automatically high. And so really we're basically talking about caring deeply about quality. So you mentioned like we're not just going to do the new trendy thing because it's trendy. We're going to pick a technology because it contributes to the quality. It solves a problem. And to me, this idea of caring deeply comes from ownership. If you feel a sense of ownership over the product that you're working on, then you probably automatically care deeply. And if you really feel a sense of ownership of the product, then you care more about the long term of the product, the success of the product over the next 2 years, instead of just caring about the end of the sprint. Because we do Scrum, and I think sometimes Scrum kind of gets in our way. We kind of work in 2-week sprints a lot of times. And we probably focus a little bit too much on the last day of the sprint, and we might even throw in some extra shortcuts at the end of the sprint because it's like we've got to get this finished. Internal demos coming up, Scrum Master's looking at us, but really, if we care deeply and if we take ownership in the product, then we should think beyond the sprint. We should think about what's going to happen to the client after we're not there anymore. Will our code still be readable? Will they be able to refactor our code without having lots of maintenance costs or bugs, or will the bugs be difficult to eradicate and things like that? Any other comments? Okay, I heard a breath. Okay, so next, a senior developer is a disciplined and experienced developer who does not accept monotonous tasks, but seeks ways to automate and be more efficient. To me, this means DevOps, but not just DevOps. It means respecting yourself enough to want to find ways to let them through. Not accepting things that take a lot of extra time when you can automatically do it with a batch file or some sort of automation. Can you all think of any examples of times when you've needed to you might have had to do something like a really repetitive, monotonous task that you automated with a script or something?
In my case, Gulp was a great help for doing a lot of things, like changing the APIs, the address of the API on the front ends.
Yeah.
I remember this time.
All the build scripting stuff is important.
Yeah, I remember this time that when we had, I think it was in a project. I don't remember the project, but we were doing charts on that project, and they had a lot of the information and charts already created, in which they wanted to have all of those charts. They had like a list of charts, which we needed to import somehow into the system, but it wasn't just like a CSV file or something like that. We needed to write code for that. I remember that I did a small script that actually exported the code that I needed and stuff. So
right,
I kind of remember that, and also some boilerplate code that I've written so that we don't have to do like monotonous tasks on some of the boilerplates that we had, I think a few years ago. So we don't have to do the renaming and stuff like that before we even started using the Yo generators and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Those were the ones that I remember.
I remember when you did that, Richard, and when you were still kind of new to our company, I think a little bit when you did that, and I was like, wow, we hired the right guy. That was with Starscream, I think.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, that was hugely appreciated. So cool. So a senior developer is also a disciplined, experienced software developer who is not intimidated by problems or new challenges, but actively seeks solutions. Raise your hand if you've ever been intimidated by a problem. Yeah, the rest of you are lying, or superhuman. But being intimidated by a problem is natural, and especially for a younger developer, a less experienced developer, it's something that's going to happen a lot. In fact, it's probably one of the main reasons why a lot of developers decide to stop being developers and go and sell like car insurance or something. It's just going and flipping burgers is way easier than developing software because of the problems that you can come up against. And but a senior developer has gotten to a level in his career or his or her career where the problems, they might be big. Like right now, Gazzy's up against a big problem, and it's frustrating because it's hard to get support for this problem. It's kind of out of our hands in some ways. But we're not intimidated by that problem because we know that there is a solution out there. We just have to keep on turning over stones until we find the right one, and we know that it's out there. And we know that if for some reason we can't get the plugin to work, then we're just going to rewrite it. We'll just start over with some. There is a solution out there. So we're actively seeking solutions. Anybody have any comments about that? I really think that's a big important thing for senior developers to get.
I just want to mention that always there is a fear, no matter if you are a developer or senior developer. The only difference is that we need to continue seeking for a solution, and we know that if we will continue searching for a solution, we will find it. So that's for me, that's the idea, just to continue searching and encourage your team that there is a solution, that we can improve that part, and just let to know to the other developers that we can have the control of this issue. Because that's something that I learned, that we cannot say to the client that we cannot do something. There is always a way to try to search if there is another way to do it, but we cannot say that we cannot do something. So maybe it's related with this point.
Yeah. Anything else? Cool. What is over-engineering?
Trying to kill a cockroach with a missile launcher. Something like that. That would be an over-engineering.
Need a car and buy a tank.
Using dependency injection in a Facebook ad campaign. Maybe. Probably. Using factory pattern for using factory pattern for a condition that talks about male or female. Did that one make sense? If you've got a condition, factory pattern helps us to deal with conditions. So I would never tell someone to use factory pattern for, actually, I don't know, it'd be fun. I like to over-engineer things. But you could over-engineer a strategy that deals with male or female. So do it this way: send this email if it's male, send this email if it's female, and you could use factory pattern to break up the if or the switch, the condition. But to do that for male or female, when you'll never, well, in this day and age, you might end up with different types of genders, but normally you would not be able to have more than male or female. So it would be overkill, over-engineering to use factory pattern in a male or female condition. That's one crazy example of over-engineering. So, any other examples? Have you seen any over-engineering lately? Sometimes over-engineering happens when we, as developers, we're trying to make our software way too flexible or way too configurable. And especially when the client wants that kind of configuration ability from their admin control panel or something like that. Usually we're able to talk them out of it.
Yeah.
Yes, that has some cost.
Yeah. So a senior developer is a disciplined and experienced software developer who recognizes the difference between under and over engineering and seeks a balance.
Yep.
So I think that what that means is that we have to constantly, as senior developers, be watching out for under engineering and over engineering, both. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we have to make trade-offs. We have to decide to use we might have to decide to do it one way because we don't if we did any more, it'd be over engineering, or maybe sometimes we need to think about the future vision of the product and say, yeah, this is going to need to be very flexible in the future, so I'm going to need to do it this way, which kind of goes back to caring about the long-term maintainability of the software, trying to make sure that you understand the long-term vision of the software. Anybody else have anything to add about
Yeah,
over under?
maybe I can give you an example of under engineering, because I remember that we have a service that the two services that are almost the same, maybe just one of the method in the service are a little bit different, but it's because it's doing a specific task for different roles. So maybe that's we need to change to be just one service and reduce the code. So maybe that's a good sample to detect an under engineering and just improve the code, the quality also.
Yeah, there are so many examples like that, and it really does come down to each project, and even each decision. Many times you have to decide or detect over or under engineering based on the decision. So it's not even, it's something that you many times you have to deal on a case by case basis.
Yeah, another good sample, for example, in our boilerplates, there is a lot of stuff that we don't need. I mean, for gold tasks or a lot of stuff. So maybe if you are configuring your project, normally I remove some gold tasks that maybe will confuse me or that we don't need or improve some stuff. I remember that Gassi had an issue with one of the just boilerplates because there is a lot of npm packages that are not needed, right? So you need to detect those kind of stuff because it's for me it's over engineering.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see, what's the next one? A senior developer is a disciplined and experienced software developer who has demonstrated that he or she can get through coding problems efficiently. Well, we've talked about that. That's similar to just not being intimidated by problems. So it's also a software developer who others look to for guidance and help. That kind of goes back to the proven leader part, but the president of the country might be a leader, but he's not teaching me anything. He's not investing himself in me. So I might follow him where he goes, maybe, or maybe use a military leader or maybe a boss in a company. You might be following their lead because maybe you have to, or because you just that's just the right thing to do. But someone who invests their time in you is what this is talking about. Others look to you for guidance and help. If no one is ever asking you for help, you're probably not yet to the level where you need to be as a senior developer. How do you get people to want to ask you for help?
You have to want to teach them. I mean, it's all good if you like helping, but if you like helping just for the sake of recognition, and you just want to hog all the knowledge, then you're probably not helping as much as you think you are. I mean, as a senior developer, you should want to obviously get the person through the problem first, if it's time sensitive, and then sit down and explain why it is you did what you did. Why you went with this solution, or just make them understand your decision, make them learn from you. Don't just be their crutch. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like what you said there. It actually is a lot more than just knowing something that somebody else doesn't know. It is the willingness to teach. It's the willingness to share. Yes. And I suppose if you don't know something that's if you lack the knowledge, then people aren't going to ask you. But the minute you know something that somebody else doesn't know, you have the ability to share it. Yes. People will ask you if you show the willingness to share it.
And just to clarify, I mean, It's not so much about here. This is how you're supposed to do it. Don't bother me ever again.
Yeah.
It's about we all have our tasks. We all have time-sensitive tasks. We're all on a deadline. So you as a senior developer have your tasks. The rest of the team has their tasks, and you can't stop doing your tasks every time somebody asks you for help with the same problem. I mean, it's not about don't bother me ever again. It's about we have to get this out, and it's not good that only I know how to do it. Somebody else needs to know, in case tomorrow I get sick or tomorrow I get hit by a bus.
Or win the lottery.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah, good point. And it also it goes back to one of our core values, which is that we empower our teammates. What does empowering teammates mean? It means that I want you to do well. It's not that I'm competing against you and I must do better than you so that I look better. It's I look better when you look good. And that's the essence of empowering teammates. And so if you are a person who is constantly wanting everybody else to look good, then you're probably going to be the kind of person that others look to for guidance and help. Sometimes, and I'll even go back on one thing I said. I said before that you probably, one prerequisite for people asking you for help is that you know something that they don't. Actually, I don't think that that's even true. Because I can think of times when developers with a lot less experience have helped me with things just by pairing with me on them and giving me an extra set of eyes. Maybe I didn't see that misplaced comma, and the guy that just got out of college who's pairing with me sees it right off the bat and saved me 3 hours. That's an example, and I would totally ask that person to pair with me again. And so that person, even though they have less experience, they're somebody that I would go to for help or guidance. Cool. Anything else? So senior developer, go ahead.
Well, I can say that you need to invest time, because sometimes someone asks you for some guidance, and you just spend like 10 minutes with that person, and just to figure out the issue that they have or the thing that they want to know, but you are not interested in spend time and teach to the other person what are you doing and why are you doing that, or something like that. I remember that's the reason why I'm asking for someone for some guidance, because I know that the person give me the time that I'm requesting from him, and I will not just have 10 minutes of that person.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. So what is a senior developer? A senior developer is a disciplined and experienced software developer who has reached a high level of appreciation of an effective execution of agile coding techniques and practices. So Saul, would you say that's lost my question? Would you say that this is an appropriate criteria for a senior developer?
Sorry?
Yeah, right. I lost it too. So a senior developer is this like right after lunch, delicious lunch with spaghetti and carne asada. So a senior developer has reached a high level of appreciation and effective execution of agile coding techniques and practices. Would you say that's an appropriate criteria for a senior developer?
Yeah, I think it's appropriate, because we need to know Agile, because we use Agile right now, a lot of Agile techniques. So I think it's appropriate that senior at least know how the techniques works. Maybe he's not an expert, but he knows how the flow works.
Yeah. And the criteria here says just appreciation and effective execution. So we're all on the road to trying to be experts in different things. So a lot of times, a healthy appreciation and effective execution of something is enough. and then expertise comes later on. But Richard, what would you say is an example of one of those techniques or practices that one of those agile development techniques or practices that we need to have that high appreciation of as senior developers?
I'll pass on this one.
I'm actually.
Yeah.
It's too easy, which is probably why you're coming up blank. I'll give you an example. And this is one of those criteria that would probably be, it sets Ackland Avenue apart from most software development shops, because one of the things that we kind of rest on as a company is test first development. So that's an agile development technique or practice that as a senior developer at Ackland Avenue, we need to have a high appreciation for an effective execution of TDD, test first development. So, Richard, I'll give you one more chance. What's another example of something that we do at Ackland Avenue that's an agile development technique or practice that if somebody wants to be a senior developer, they need to have that high level of appreciation and effective execution of this thing?
Continuous integration?
Yeah, excellent. So not everybody knows how to get into a CI server and make it do things. But I would say that a senior developer has a pretty high level appreciation of what CI does for him or her. And I can probably, given some time, can probably get into the gulp scripts and figure it out if they had to. Ghazi, what's another example of an agile development technique that we need to have an appreciation and execution for?
Pair programming.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, why would you say that that's important?
From experience, first thing that comes to mind is after a while, you're so deep in the code, you can't see anything beyond it. So when you stumble on issues, for example, it's a lot harder to figure them out when you've just been looking at the same code, and you're looking at your line of code and it says 2 + 2 = 5, and you're going, yes, okay, that's fine. Why is this calculator not working? And you're just staring at it, and you know you've read that line 1,000 times, so you've convinced yourself that 2 + 2 is 5. And you can't find the bug until a second pair of eyes comes over and says, dude, 2 + 2 is 4, not 5. And you're like, oh, right.
Right.
And you actually have to pull out your hand and do the counting because you don't believe him at first. But it's important to have another point of view. I mean, two heads are better than one is not just a saying. It's a law.
Yeah.
Especially in software development.
Right. Take it a step farther. Let's say that the customer is not looking for a calculator that multiplies and divides. Mm-hmm. All they need is add and subtract. This is a really super elementary example, mm-hmm. but it translates, because as developers we want to look ahead and we're like, well, this is a stupid calculator if it doesn't multiply and divide. So of course I'm going to add that. And before you know it, you've added all this extra logic for multiplying and dividing when really the client wanted it in the first place. You had a grooming meeting like a week before, and it just never clicked for you. But if you're doing all this solo, then you might be able to go down that road for a really long time before you realize that you shouldn't have done all that work. Mm-hmm. And if you're pair programming, so another example of a way that pair programming can help prevent a lot of extra work, a lot of extra bugs. It's more than, hey, you forgot a semicolon on line 23. You know, mm-hmm. It's all about bug reduction.
Yeah.
Some of the other things that I listed on this criteria, unless somebody wants to take some more guesses, I can list them off here.
Domain-driven design.
Yeah.
Architecture.
Yeah. Architecture. Solid principles. Do you all feel like you apply solid principles on a daily basis, or is that something that's still kind of foggy?
I would say yes.
within reason. I mean, because just going really specific, at least inversion of control is a little hard to implement in, say, JavaScript. So, within reason, within the constraints of the tools you're using, yes, definitely.
Yeah. Another one would be design patterns. So design patterns contribute to agile development because they keep us from reinventing the wheel design-wise. So when we come upon a problem, or if somebody's attempted to create a switch with 5 different conditions, then there's a pattern for that. Factory pattern, strategy pattern, stuff like that. So moving on, a senior developer is a disciplined and experienced software developer who has demonstrated practical knowledge in agile architectural designs and patterns. We just mentioned DDD. We've also talked about, or we've also used CQRS in the past. We've used things like Event Bus, event sourcing. We've gone down those roads in pretty deep ways. We've had good experiences and bad experiences, and we're better developers because of all that. Dante, why would you say it's important for a senior developer to have demonstrated practical knowledge of agile architectural design?
Because the agile architecture try to reduce the unknown factor of a project. For example, domain-driven design is not a technique for the developers only. It's a technique for product owners, quality assurance, etc. Because it's something that try to be a tool or a framework to understand the domain of a project. Because the most of the bugs of any application come from the understanding of the requirements of the client. And domain-driven design try to tackle that issue. That is one of the first techniques. The other techniques, the agile architecture per se, like CQRS, event sourcing, API architecture, etc., is only techniques for the developer to tackle in a more easy way the requirements of the client. But we have several steps, several tools. We need to understand the domain. That implies understand the product of the client, and we need to deliver something that complies that requirements. That is agile architecture.
Yep.
And one thing very, very important. The agile architecture, they are called agile architecture because you can change the things easily. You are not, the agile architecture tries to avoid the big framework, the big design in front, as in the Cascade way. So because that is agile architecture, if you understand the domain and you reflect that understanding in your code, you could change the things easily.
Yeah, I agree. And then it also goes back to things like design patterns and solid principles to help things stay modular inside of your architecture. Sorry, my voice is starting to leave me. So a senior developer is a disciplined and experienced developer who can handle the entire dev cycle end to end. Now that sounds like an amazing developer, somebody that can, golly, from the database all the way up to the pixels. How does one accomplish that level of expertise?
Practice. Really real life experience.
Trial and failure, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and be open to take those kind of tasks or cards. Just not take backend cards or just front-end cards. Just be open to work in whatever place, and you will learn by doing.
Yeah. I'll add side projects. Uh,
Mhm.
I don't know how many companies in the world that encourage people to work on side projects outside of the company, but I sure do. I think it's a great idea, and it's kind of like you get something out of it because you get to create something,
Open
and
source.
the company gets something out of it because you basically get training, off the books training, which is awesome. Yeah, working on open source, contributing to open source, really helps with maintaining or advancing that knowledge. Only problem like working on open source is that a lot of times they're libraries, or they're not a full stack project. So it doesn't necessarily push ahead the entire dev cycle or end-to-end development. But anything like that, is something that constantly will sharpen your tools. Yeah, there are some developers that really like backend, and that's cool. They have some expertise there. They've got some knowledge there, and they just kind of their brain just really works that way. Some developers really like the front end, and that's cool too. But what we ask for at Eklund Avenue, and especially to be a senior developer, is to be able to have a command of that whole dev cycle, end to end, back and front end.
Mhm.
So a senior developer is a disciplined and experienced software developer who can leverage the power of various advanced technologies and systems. Why is that one important?
Be-
Hmm.
because for starters,
Because
we
I'll
want
let Gazzy go first, and then Renee. Sorry, Gazzy first, then Richard, then Dante.
so I don't think it's just an Ackland Avenue thing that we want to give our customers the best that we have and the best that's out there.
Yeah.
So, it's good for, well, no, it's not good. It's necessary for our senior devs to have a grasp of what's out there, what's great, what's awesome, what's not so much the industry standard, but stuff that has been proven to work over and over, has run the gauntlet and come out a winner. And it's not just, and they have to at least be familiar enough with it beyond there's this, my neighbor told me about this and we should totally try it. It's they need to know it at least at a, let's call it a moderate level. If you can't just tell your customers, so listen, we've heard about this awesome technology, we've never actually tried it, but we've read all these articles and all these testimonials and all that, and it just sounds really awesome. But you can't just do that. I mean, not without first-hand experience. I mean, everybody has a different experience using anything. I mean, if not, we wouldn't have choices if everybody had the same opinion.
Right.
And it's really tied into owning your product. I mean, you can't own your product if you don't know how it works, if you don't know how the tech you're using works, and if you're consciously not using what you know is best. That's my assessment of
Richard.
understanding advanced technologies.
Yeah, I would say that senior developer must know at least several technologies because different technologies and frameworks or whatever solve different problems. And if you use like one technology to solve all problems, you're like, probably you can do better with a different one because it solves better that problem.
Yeah.
So
like if all you know
it's
is
like,
a database,
for example,
if the only technology you know is database, then you'll end up writing queues to databases. You'll do a message bus to a database. You'll put HTML in your database.
And I mean, you might solve the problem that way, but you won't be able to do maintainability at low cost, and you would have probably low quality and some other problems in whatever you're trying to solve. And that's my opinion on that. So yeah, pretty much know what your tools do and what they solve.
Yeah. Dante, did you have something to add there?
Yes, it's something about the technologies. Actual today, this year, 2016, the industry has a problem with the front end, especially with the JavaScript world, because there is an explosion of frameworks and techniques, and that is something even called the tiredness of JavaScript, something like that. The issue is that a senior developer should be aware of that, all of that kind of technology, and should be ready to apply, but should not conduct an experiment in a project, because we could not jump in a project with a customer and experiment a technology in that project. We need to have the experience that, as he said, in that technology, because it's a responsibility. Because if that technology doesn't work, it's something that will be charged to the client.
Yeah, and in the past, when we have had to experiment with something like that, a lot of times we've ended up not charging for that experiment, and that was okay. But you're absolutely right. We can't make our clients pay for our education on things. Yeah, some of the technology that I listed off here were queues, message buses, sockets, automated deployments, caching, security, logging, multiple persistence platforms like Mongo, SQL, and then multiple languages. Not everything can be solved by C#, nor should it. Amen. Amen. So a senior developer is a disciplined experienced software developer who strives to understand the product vision and encourages the other devs to do the same. So how in the world, there's two questions here. How can you gain an understanding of the product vision?
Mm-hmm.
And two, how can you encourage others to do the same?
For the first question, first, get actively involved. I mean, there's a reason there's always a member of each team in our grooming sessions. You know, everybody needs to know what's going on. Everybody needs to know what the plan is. And for a senior developer to actually understand the product's vision, there's no other way but to be involved. You know, be in the meetings when you can. Talk to your product owners. Talk to the client if possible. You know, don't just go by what's written on a card on Trello or a task or a piece of paper that your boss handed you and said this is what you have to do. I mean, actually understand what the task you're doing is going to accomplish by itself and as part of a bigger project. You know, if I'm building a module to list objects, it's not just going to be all right. I'm just going to make a table, query the database, and just add one row per item. You know, I'm actually okay. But what exactly are we listing? I mean, are we listing people? Is this going to be editable? Are there going to be pictures or whatever? You know, it's just don't just settle. Don't settle for what's on the card. Get involved and ask questions. Know your project inside and out. Know your product inside and out. Own it.
Okay.
And
excellent answer to number one.
Yeah, and as for number two, I honestly don't know. I mean, it's one of those things that you can basically, you know, suggest it to the team, you know, to your fellow devs, you know, and if they're not, you know, you know, there's some people who just hate being in meetings. Sometimes I think we can all relate. We all have those days. And other than you know, encouraging them to join you in this investigation, be available to them. You know, if they couldn't be in a meeting or they just didn't want to, but they still want to ask you questions and they want to understand, let them. you know, don't respond with, well, you should have been in the meeting. We totally discussed that. Just I mean, it's as a senior developer, as a team lead, they'll be looking to you. They'll be following your lead.
Cool. Anything else? Any other tips or tricks?
I would say I think same as Gassy, it's pretty hard to encourage people, pretty much because sometimes people don't want to. So suggestion that I might do, and something that I have proven that it works, is just to give them a little more responsibility. And that way they're going to be like, it's like throwing someone into the sea and they don't know how to swim. Not like that, but maybe a little less responsibility. And when they know that they have to like somehow get the information and be encouraged and try to get more information, they're going to do it because they're already in the sea and they have to get out of there somehow.
Yeah.
That's something that I've done and proves to somehow work, but it's really hard to encourage other people.
Yeah.
I can say
And
that
I
you
would.
just need. Well, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was finishing. Go ahead.
I just want to add that you need to include them. Ask questions to them. Like, what's your opinion about this process that for this project, or what will be your solution? I want to hear you what you think. So that's what I can do. Ask to them, include them. I know that our client is our product owner, right? Normally we don't have contact with the real clients because the product owner take that task. But I remember that maybe Nathaniel want me to be included with the client, and he put me in the meeting. Maybe I'm not sure what they are talking about, but when I hear to them, I know what they expect, and I understand what is the best solution for them. So
Yep.
that's something that you can do for the other developers, like include them also, ask questions to them, etc.
Yeah, give them a voice, right? And make sure that they feel appreciated. All right, so we're coming to the end. A senior developer is a disciplined and experienced software developer who knows what it feels like, wait for it, to fail miserably, but to pick yourself up again and learn from your mistakes and improve. Has anyone ever failed miserably?
Yes.
The rest of you are lying. No, everybody has failed miserably. Maybe some people fail less often than others. I know that I have failed pretty miserably in some cases. I have told a few of you all about the time that I was involved in a social networking startup, and we built an entire social network platform on ASP Classic, and and it was massive and amazing, and it did so many things, and then the minute we brought in more developers, no one could do anything with the code. Why? Because the main developer, me, had no idea what it would take to make code maintainable for the long term. So we ended up having to rewrite it. All that 3 years of work that I put into this social networking platform for neighborhoods, down the drain.
Yeah.
And then as we're rewriting it, right, we lose funding and we sell the company. So basically, because of my lack of coding skill and my lack of long-term maintainability in my own code, my company failed and closed. So, but here I am. I'm with you guys now. I've picked myself up, and I learned from my mistakes. And instead of doing that unmaintainable code, now I do this, which is what defines Ackland Avenue. Anybody an example of when you have failed miserably, picked yourself up, and improved?
Ooh.
No one else has been a part of a social network? None of you all have failed miserably. None of you can be senior developers. I'm sorry. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm trying to dig through all the levels of repression. Give me a sec.
Oh, you've been repressing the memories.
Yes.
Oh man, you know what? Part of what it means to be a mature human being is that you've made some mistakes and you've learned from them, and you've been able to make yourself better from them.
Yeah.
Dante, tell us about your experience with Unicron and how you have felt about what you've learned from Unicron, because I know that we can all agree that there were some things that we needed to learn, and we learned them through Unicron. And
Okay.
I know you've told me about this, so that's why I don't mind pointing you out for that.
First of all, I started Unicron because I have a bad experience in a project here at Xtalks, because on that specific moment in time, we only perform unit tests on the backend, and we leave the front. In that time, the front end were only like a second-class citizen in our code, because it doesn't have CI, it doesn't have unit tests.
Right. Until then, we had never done any kind of anything with just static HTML.
Was only something that we write it and we throw it, and we never do nothing with our front end. So because that, my main concern with when I created Unicron was to create a CI for our front ends, because I see the necessity to use modern techniques in the front end, in the building of front end, like minification, uglification, JavaScript optimization, good standards of Angular, for example, something like that. Because that, I started Unicron. But Unicron showed me something that is very complicated with the boilerplates. And the boilerplates die miserably in months if you don't provide the assistance, or you don't follow the code or the issues that the people reported, because the dependency becomes old and becomes unstable, and because that we run in a lot of troubles. Unicron also teach me about something about the runner tasks like gulp and grunt, and they are memory eaters, for example. So I learned to hate the boilerplates because of that. Yes, I learned to hate it because we need. I have the vision that we need to use something baked by the community, and something that we could maintain with without assigning a lot of money and resource on that. Because if we don't do that, we will always have the trouble that we have with Unicron in the end.
Yeah.
With unupdated dependencies.
Right. Another example about Unicron is that was our first time as a company, as a team, actually branching into unit testing in the front end. So a lot of the patterns that we were using and just the techniques or the way we were structuring things were different from how we do them now, and actually ended up causing problems in some cases. And so so we've learned a lot from something like Unicron. So social networking, boilerplates. Every time we every time we make mistakes or we fail miserably, it's time to pick ourselves back up and improve. And for me, that's a lot of what defines a senior developer too. So anybody else have any other comments before I go on?
Just one thing um, regarding failures and linking to owning your product. As leaders, as lead devs that we senior devs are, we need to understand that if the product fails, we fail. Even if it wasn't if let's say it's a bug that caused the company to lose $1 million overnight. Even if we didn't write the code, we were part of the team, and we were responsible for code quality. So I'm not saying, hey, fork out the $1 million and pay them back, but it's consciously admit that even if you did not write the line yourself, you have part of the blame, and learn from it. Accept that your teammates' mistakes are your mistakes.
And be part of the solution.
Correct. And learn from that so it doesn't happen again.
Right. The other two things in here about being a senior developer are communicating effectively, which we've mentioned, and it's kind of an obvious thing. And then the other one is just kind of like, they're not in any particular order. The last one has demonstrated experience in both front end and back end, which has a lot to do with just being full stack, working on the entire thing.
Yep.
So we're really pretty much done listing all the criteria for a senior developer. So I've got a question for you guys. Why would somebody want to be a senior developer? What are the benefits?
You mean aside from the private bathroom?
Yeah. The private bathroom is one. What else? There are no benefits. It's just more work.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on what you consider a benefit. I mean, there are people who might enjoy the extra responsibility. There are people who might not. So, I mean, personally, I consider the extra responsibility a benefit for me, mostly because I'm not one to, sit back twiddling my thumbs when there's work to be done. Well, let's face it, we are all creatures of egos. The recognition is always a big plus.
Yeah.
You get to share your experience with people. You get to see as a senior developer, you get to influence the people who come after you. You get to see the community as a whole grow into something better, knowing that you had something to do with it, however small.
Cool. What else?
I would like to say I do also agree and like the extra responsibility, simply because I like to do a lot, and I prefer having a lot to do instead of just little things to do. So that's one. The other thing is that since you're a senior developer, you get to work with new people.
Hey, Richard, can you repeat that? You broke up for a second.
Okay, let me see if I can rewind. Where did I stay?
we lost you at...
I'll repeat the entire...
We lost you at you don't like to do small tasks. You want to do the big stuff.
Oh, no, I think... Okay, can you hear me now, like, fine?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was saying that I like responsibility because I don't like doing, like, just a few tasks. I like doing a lot of tasks because that keeps him, like, going. So if I just have to do 2 tasks and that's it for the day, it's, like, boring to me. So that's something that I like. That's a benefit for me. The second one is that you get to work with a lot of people and you're leading them and stuff like that, so you get to communicate with them and somehow give them your thoughts and they give them to you. And the fact that you're a senior, you get like the recognition, and that whole thing like gets you to work with other people because of that, because you're like being seen. So I really like working with a lot of people, so I think that's a benefit because you get to learn from a lot of people. And being a senior developer doesn't mean that you're like, you know everything and stuff. You're always going to be learning new things, and your teammates always have something to share. So being a senior actually like helps you, and you're communicating with a lot more oftenly, so you get to learn as well. That's
Yep.
one of the benefits that I see.
Cool. Renee?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure if extra responsibilities is the correct word or the correct phrase, because it sounds like I'm doing work uh, in at night or
Mm.
whatever kind of extra stuff that I'm doing outside of my work, something like that, my current work. Um, I could say that for me the best benefit is to learn new stuff. I can say that I learn a lot of things being a senior dev, like take more responsibility of the client uh, feature, the feature from the clients, what the client wants, or not. I think I can understand better the clients, and I can do in a better way my job. But saying the extra responsibilities sounds like I'm doing work in the night, and I think that nobody wants to do extra work in the night.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a
But
benefit.
yeah, and that didn't sound like a benefit. So I can say that I learn new stuff,
Yeah.
and I like learn. So work as a senior dev helped me to learn more faster than others, because I need to research
You
for
had to.
other how implement some infrastructure, learn new technologies, some kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
You're more involved. Yeah.
And I can
Somehow.
think of Renee, especially on the project where you've been working. There have been things where you needed to step up and learn something new that maybe you had never done before, and but since there wasn't anybody else that was the leader in that case, you had to learn those things, and you did, and you weren't intimidated by those problems. Another benefit that I can think of is that you can control your own destiny in a way. So not only do you guys get to as senior developers, you kind of have some leadership in the project where you're working, but you also have some leadership role in the whole company, the future of the whole company. Do you guys have any examples of times when that has happened in the past few months that you want to mention? I
Did
don't
you
know
control your
whether,
destiny?
well, where you control your destiny and in a way the destiny of the entire company.
Yeah, I can remember Gassi's example with the mobile competition.
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah, that was a senior developer-led initiative. It was
I can
extremely
say
exitoso.
that well, doing mobile apps, it's an old discussion, right? Because we start with PhoneGap, but we decide to move to AppGyver, including that we know that there's some issues, right? But now we are moving to other kind of framework like NativeScript or React Native, right? But I can say that we control our destiny, because we as a senior dev we have the control to say, hey, we can move this framework because I think that could be better for us, or something like that. So you have a voice.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of times, even just me as a CTO, a lot of times I mean, I have got a lot of decisions I have to make constantly, and I really appreciate having a group that I can go to and say, hey, what do you think about this, or how would you solve this problem? And I might go to different groups to do that, and I don't always choose the senior developer group, but that is a group that I go to a lot of times. to ask for help with certain things. Like for instance, the latest compensation increase and bonus strategy that we just came up with. That was actually something that I don't know if many people know, but that's actually something that came out of a discussion that I had with the senior developers. So just you in that way you're able to control not only your own destiny but also the destiny of your coworkers as a senior developer. Okay, so time for a lightning round so that we can finish this call up. I've got a simple question for the three of you because everybody's been dropping like flies. Saul and Dante had to leave, and Victor couldn't make it today, and JJ is on vacation this week. So this will be a quick one, unless Richard for some reason has a really, really long list. But he didn't know what the question was going to be, maybe. So we're going to go around. I've got Richard and then Renee and then Ghazi in that order in my list of pictures. So I'm going to say your name, and I just want you to give me some advice that you would have for somebody that wants to become a senior developer. Not necessarily as somebody that's already a senior developer, but somebody that wants to be noticed and that wants to be someday tapped as a senior developer to become a senior developer. What is your advice for that person? Okay, ready? Richard.
Learning.
Huh?
Keep learning.
Okay, that was a super lightning
Can you hear me?
answer. Okay. Yes. I think we heard you. I was thinking like, what else? Okay, Renee, go.
Who? Ghazi or me?
Renee.
Oh, okay. Some advice that enjoy what you do. Because you will learn new stuff and just enjoy it instead of seeing like a big responsibility.
Ghazi.
Always go the extra mile. Don't just give the bare minimum required of you.
Richard.
Keep digging, and this might sound like one of those lose weight programs, but whatever you're doing, try to try to understand what you're doing, and you're going to go up the ladder or be a senior developer.
Very motivational. Renee.
Get involved. Try to get involved in the meetings or try to understand the project, not just the card. Just try to understand what the client wants, ask to the POs or to other devs, etc.
Ghazi.
Oh my god, I lost my train of thought. Damn it, I lost my train of thought. I don't want to pass. Right, don't tackle problems all by yourself. I mean, don't try to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders as a developer.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Just because you're the
Richard.
lead does not mean, sorry. Just wanted to elaborate. Just because you're the lead doesn't mean you have to solve all problems. You have a team. Remember that.
Right. Richard.
Think more than yourself, not just because you don't like specific technology, but it solves the problem better than what you like, doesn't mean that it isn't the right one to go. So don't think just for yourself, but for the project.
Cool. Renee.
Try to take the ownership of complex tasks. Just trying to start doing some complex stuff, not monotonous task.
Yeah. Ghazi.
When having a bug reported to you, don't ever respond with, "It works for me."
Richard.
That's a good one. Accept responsibility and have no fear. Fear is part of learning. So I just mentioned, but accept it, and you'll be good.
I'll inject one here. I liked Ghazi's a lot. When presented with when Q finds something wrong with your code, thank them because they're helping you be a better coder. Renee.
Try to talk with others, not just with developers. Try to understand the QAs, the product owner. Not just try to be more to have more communication skills or social skills with others. That will
Soft
help you.
skills. Gezi.
Do share the credit. Don't pass on the blame.
Richard.
Maybe this might be an unpopular opinion or a popular one, but we mentioned it during the talk. So do side projects or do stuff that you like outside of work. That
Renee.
is related to work.
Good.
Always ask for a feedback of the thing that you do, or yeah.
Yeah. Be all about constant improvement. Gezi.
Based on branching out from what Rene just said, learn to take criticism.
Don't get defensive.
Yes.
Richard.
Be consistent. If you're doing things good, just continue doing them good. Just don't go down. Be consistent.
Renee.
Being proactive. Don't expect that there is a card to do something if you know that there is something that you need to improve.
There is no plan B. Gezi.
Yeah.
Pass.
Richard.
I think this is related to what Brennan mentioned, but get to know your team very well, because there's a bunch of knowledge in your team. So if you know them very well, you might know who to go and ask for questions. So get to know them.
Yeah. Renee.
Don't feel bad if you do a mistake. Everyone do a mistake sometimes, and you will learn from your mistakes.
Yeah. Gezi.
Remember the difference between being a boss and being a leader. Leaders are in the trenches. Bosses are back at the base over the radio.
Richard.
Learn to self-manage yourself and your team. Be a good manager somehow of your time and what you're doing.
Cool. Renee.
Next.
You can ask for guidance also. You can ask for help. There's other senior devs that are available to help you, and all includes there are other devs that are able to help you. You are not own of the project, or you always will not have the reason.
Gezi.
Pass.
Richard.
This is something that I did. So make a list of the things that you consider that are your weaknesses, either communication or you're weak on backend and stuff. Just make a list and try to improve them.
Renee.
I will pass for now.
Gezi.
Never back down from a challenge.
Richard.
Ask questions always, and don't be, yeah. Ask questions. I don't know what else.
Rene.
Try to improve yourself. Never put a limit on you.
Gezi.
Pass.
Richard.
Always offer your help.
Always what?
Offer yourself to help. I don't know how to express it, but always place yourself to help others.
Renee.
Is that
I pass.
Gezi.
Pass.
Richard.
fast?
All right. Great call. Have a great day.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.